most of our business is coming from our sphere of influence. What we're really going to dig into tonight a little bit is dealing with the other portion of the business, people who are referred from our sphere, that people maybe we don't directly know. According to the Realtor organization, 72% of sellers are people who you know, right? So the other 30% are people who don't know you directly. They've never worked with you, they're cold. So some people, when they're doing their searches, trying to ask questions, especially those first-time home buyers, if they're techie or savvy or really just budget conscious, they're going to be looking online to see what kind of questions to ask you during your appointment. I just did a quick one right before I jumped on this call, and there's hundreds of posts saying what to ask your real estate agent. Here's one I have pulled up right now. It says 24 questions to ask a real estate agent worth their salt. So they're really going to start asking you questions, and what we're going to go over tonight is kind of how you can phrase and answer some of those questions and use some of the materials that we have at Best Choice Realty help you in those appointments that you have with those sellers. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. You guys can follow along. I guess I'll go through a scenario here real quick for you guys. Rochelle and I took a listing, or we had a listing appointment up in Federal Way for a client. His name was Craig, and he called Rochelle and said, hey, my name is Craig. I'm interviewing some agents. I'm retiring from Boeing. I'm looking to list my house and move to Coeur d'Alene. So, and he said, I'm going to be very upfront. I'm interviewing multiple agents. And this is not uncommon for you guys. A lot of you have been up against other agents for a listing. It can be very competitive, especially around this time of year as we kind of ramp up for the spring season. So Rochelle did a two-step approach with them where she called them, went over things on the phone, but then she also had her appointment set up. Now, one of the things that's most important for your listing appointment is to put in the time to properly prepare. A lot of agents don't. They just kind of come in and wing in and expect to have the listing just because they know the person. That's not the case. You're going to look a lot better to that prospective seller if you come prepared. They're already doing their research beforehand, and if they're already interviewing multiple agents, they already have some questions for you, and they're gonna interview you just like a normal job interview. It's no different. So come prepared to answer those questions when you're going through the house. I mean, most people, they kind of say, okay, well, you know, let's kind of go through the house real quick, and then we can kind of sit down. I've got my CMA to kind of go through a pricing analysis, and we can chit chat. I just need to confirm. So you go through the walkthrough, and if you guys want some helpful tips on how to kind of prepare for that portion of the appointment, we have other webinars that we've gone over through that. You're welcome to go to our YouTube channel for that. Just send us an email if you're interested in that. We can send that to you. But tonight I wanted to go over our listing presentation, which I have here on the screen for those of you who are following along. It's beautifully designed. Lori has it here. If anybody needs a customized version with your information, go ahead and just send an email to marketing@bestchoicerealtyhomes.com, and she can get that started for you. Otherwise, this is available on bestchoicerealtyhomes.com. This is our resource guide. If you scroll down to the bottom, we've got a quick links here that says seller representation or presentation, sorry. And from there, you can see a bunch of tools and resources that you can read through, understand, print, and bring to your appointment. A lot of our top producers, they use what we call a listing package, which if you call any of our offices, we have available for you to help you, where all of this is assembled and ready to go in a box. And we just need to at least a day's notice to put that together for you. But we're just going to go through the presentation together here. And the first is just a cover page, but as you kind of go through, when you're in your appointment with your seller, you don't have to go through every single page. Even when Rochelle, I've gone on a few appointments with her, or even myself, you just kind of go through some of the highlights. You know the seller better than any of us can determine how that seller is going to act or behave or what's important to them. So you just kind of go through some of the highlights and say, I will leave this with you. You can read it when you have time, and you just go through some of the highlights. So I'm just going to go through it as if I were to go through the entire thing, just because there's nuggets there that some will apply to some sellers, some will not. The first page we have here is our mission, and this is our mission statement for the company. This is what we strive whenever we recruit any agent to Best Choice Realty. We go over our mission statement, and it's to provide the highest quality, most innovative technology, unsurpassed local expertise, and unparalleled real estate services anywhere in the Puget Sound. Any of our staff, we try and get them to memorize this, and we quiz them periodically, so you can go ahead into one of our offices and ask them, and they should know it by heart. And you should as well. This is our mission, right? We want to provide good service. And you can stress that to agents. Usually when people ask, why are you in the business? You know, I've had so many bad experiences with agents. You know, you got to have some sort of response to that. Even myself, when I was first starting out in the industry, I would just clam up when that question came up. Oh, I've had so many bad experiences. What do I say to something like that? Well, you can say something like, you know, that's why I got into the industry. I understand I had a bad experience too. I'm trying to make a difference, and that is why I'm in the industry myself. I want to provide a better service than I ever got when I was selling my home. And they warm up to that. They understand that, and they can relate to that. So have something at the ready, because they will ask you something like that for sure. The next page we have here is kind of our history that's done in an infographic. It's very easy to kind of flow through. And it's just a summary. We've got offices all over the place. I mean, a lot of, at least agents that Nick has been recruiting recently up in Snohomish, they go, we've never heard of Best Choice. Well, I'm surprised. Our brokerage is in the top 10 brokerages based on production year over year, and has been for a while. So we're doing just as many transactions as those big brokerages that are out there. We have offices, we're not just one little shop, we've got offices spanning the Puget Sound. So if it's easier for them to meet in person, you're happy to meet with them in person in any of our offices. We have over 350 brokers that are all production focused. I mean, we're not a small fish anymore. And if you have a team of people to support you, if you're out of town, if you need help with inspections or anything, we're a good team that can help each other. We're very actively helping each other. And this actually needs to be updated, but in 2018, we did over $645 million in sales, which is really, really good for a brokerage such as ourselves. And we're also the fastest growing independent brokerage in Washington. So we are in that top 10. We're the fastest growing, and we continue to grow at an exponential rate. And you can tell these sellers that. So these are some testimonials that we have for the firm. Again, if you get a customized version, we're happy to kind of sub in some of your personal ones if you have those. But this just kind of makes people feel a little bit, oh, okay, you know, one of the #1 questions that you'll find on a search of what should I ask my real estate agent before an appointment, they're going to ask for testimonials or people who have used your services. And you can direct them to our Facebook page, you can direct them to your own personal review page. Some people have their own, or you could just say, here, you know, here's some people who have used Best Choice Realty services. They were absolutely pleased. As we keep going here, we are not just paid for our time, but for our market expertise. If we expect to be paid well, we must provide the highest level of service. It's not just for our time, right? We provide that extra level of care. I know that if I were to sell my house, I don't know if I could do it myself. There's so much headache and heartache when selling your own personal residence, that having someone there to kind of hold your hand through the process and be there for you and advise in those situations, it's a big decision to sell or buy a home, and we're there every step of the way. I mean, that's kind of some of the language and words that you can use to make them feel more comfortable. As we kind of keep going through here, our goal is to create a high demand for your property. So our goal is to get multiple offers. Our goal is to get the best price possible. And part of this kind of goes along, this page kind of simultaneously goes with when you can start talking about your comparative market analysis, how you can price your property. We know how to market it. I mean, once we price it, we know how to market it on all these different platforms, but we want to generate as much interest as possible, and this is how we can do it. So that's kind of how I would play with this, kind of have that, okay, now we can start talking about how we're going to create that demand. And some of that is going to be with pricing, but some of that is kind of go into some of these other things that we're going to talk about here, which this would be online syndication. So I had an appointment a couple weeks ago where a seller she was wanting to list her home, and her big thing is she's like, is it going to show up on realtor.com? And I assured her, yes, it will show up on realtor.com. If you haven't already, go ahead and take a look at our marketplace on our website. And if you're having trouble getting your listing syndicated, or if a seller's concerned about that and you struggle with getting it syndicated with some of those kind of external ones that are not automatically syndicated, we can do that for you. You just have to go ahead and order the product, or reach out to Lori, who I mentioned her email earlier, but it's marketing@bestchoicerealtyhomes.com, and we can do that for you. But this seller, I assured her it was on realtor.com, and sure enough it was. I sent her a long list of all the different places that it had gone to, Zillow, realtor.com. She was big on Facebook as well, so it's just, again, making them feel more comfortable. It's going to show up and get to as many buyers and eyes as possible. And even on other real estate brokerage sites as well. So it's going to show up on the people who are on John L. Scott. It's going to show up on the people who are on Redfin's site. It's going to show up to everybody who's looking anywhere. So that's kind of where you can talk about where it's going to show up on web. As we go through here, some agents or some sellers think that, oh, you know, where are the most of the buyers going to be coming from? Well, this just came from, actually, I think, NAR's pamphlet that came out in 2019. And it's majority of buyers are coming from these three sources. So they're coming from the internet. They're coming from other agents. So when you're talking about commission, and why should I offer an SOC, and why should I offer a selling agent commission? Well, this is why. I mean, a good 34% of buyers are coming from other real estate agents. So it's important to have that type of exposure and have that compensation offered, or else you're going to limit your pool to only that 51 plus 8% and all these other ones here as well. You're going to exclude 34% of your buyer sources. So as we kind of go through, the next one is our marketing. This is how we're going to get top dollar. We're going to go through. I know we just went through the house, Mr. Seller, but you know, some of these things that take you, kind of the rule of thumb, you've got 3 photos on the wall, let's take it down to 1. Try and depersonalize, remove family photos if you can temporarily, just for showings. You know, we need to put some mulch down. You know, you kind of go through the different items that we can do to get it show ready, get it photo ready. And they're going to ask you for contractors if they need help for that. Don't worry if you don't have someone. We have a whole Rolodex full of people and on our resource guide in our vendor catalog, as well as a bunch of agents in a lot of outlying areas that are willing to help you. I had we have a buyer that we're closing on down in Chehalis, and I don't work down in Chehalis hardly ever, and we needed a contractor. And so I was like, oh, we have an agent down there. I reached out to him, and sure enough, he has a contractor that will work perfectly. So it's a team effort, and if you don't have one, it's okay. You just tell them you have a team, and you truly do. Photography is one of the most important things for these sellers. I feel like a lot of agents out there do not truly take advantage of photography options that are out there. They can be very affordable, and to a certain extent, you get what you pay for. So taking it with your iPhone photo, while it will do really well, there is a certain element of professionalism that's going to come from having a photographer go out and get really good high resolution photos. They know about which angles will look best. They know how to open all the blinds, make sure the lights are open. They're going to make sure that the photos look as good as possible to show that home in the best light. So don't underplay it. I mean, the MLS, they now allow you to have 40 photos, up to 40 photos in your MLS listing. So let's take advantage of that if we can. We're not limited on number of photos anymore. The majority of buyers, they want more photos. So try and get as many as you can, and sellers will love that. There was a high-end property that we had where they wanted, if they could do, they wanted to do more than 40 photos because it was such a expansive property. So don't be limited by photography. Make sure that you include that in your listing package. You will provide high-end photography to make sure your property looks as professional and in its best light as we can. And if we need to, we can get some staging in there. I've got a couple stagers that, you know, it's something that you could say is I've got a couple stagers that if we need to, they can do some what's called vignette staging. Another kind of tool that's kind of in our back pocket these days that I've used, and a lot of other agents have been using recently that have been top producers, is they use what's called virtual staging. So there's a company called Box Brownie who you can submit a couple of professional, they need high resolution photos. So I would recommend having your professional photographer send your photos to you, and you send, if maybe the bed wasn't quite right, you wanted a nicer bed and side tables to be included, or say it was a vacant house and you wanted some furniture to kind of show depth perception and how things will look. Box Brownie will be able to either pull furniture out and put furniture in, or just put furniture in. And it used to look really chintzy and odd, but it's come a long ways. So take advantage of that resource and don't be afraid to offer virtual staging. It is not expensive and is a lot more affordable than it's a lot less hassle and a lot more affordable than bringing in an actual stager sometimes, if that's easier. So that's another resource that you can offer your sellers. One thing that's important, and it's so funny how sellers think that open houses are what sells houses, which sometimes they do, but really it's a great opportunity for you to pick up some buyers. But it's important to offer an open house if that seller finds that most important. There was a property that we were listing out in West Seattle where we did 3 open houses, and gosh, by that third one I was like, this is just a waste of time. You know what? By the end of that open house, the buyer that came through for the third open house is the one that ended up buying the property. And I was able to talk with that buyer and kind of go through, you know, what will work for you? How will this function? And, you know, just by having that conversation with that buyer, she was the one who ended up buying the house. So there's nothing, I would definitely include it. If it's definitely a house, I would definitely offer to do an open house. Don't be afraid of it. A lot of buyers it's a numbers game, right? So just drive as much traffic as you can to the open house to make it worth your time. But don't be afraid of it. A lot of people are getting buyers from open houses, and sellers are able to get their buyers from those open houses. So don't be afraid to offer that. It's money and time well spent. Another thing is professional signage. Make sure that you have your sign up there that has your phone number on there. I know Best Choice Realty has generic signs in stock ready for you. If you've never done a listing before, it's okay. You can have a generic sign installed. But if you're wanting to invest in your real estate business and really get your listing career going, I would highly suggest you get some signage ordered, which we can do for you. If you just send them, again, a message over to Lori, she can get that order started for you. But they look something like this. And that way it has your phone number, so you can get those potential buyers and even sellers to call you and inquire about the property. A lot of top producers, they actually find that the majority of they love getting listings, because if anything, it encourages them or encourages neighbors to reach out to them, and sometimes you can snag listings on the same street or block, which is kind of fun, because then you can become a market expert, which has happened quite a few times for agents in our firm. So it's important to have good signage available. Let's continue here. So our buyer network reaches locally and abroad. We have a diverse team of agents speaking over 15 or more languages. And this is very true. We have a very diverse group here at Best Choice Realty. We have agents spanning the globe of where they've come from and what languages they can speak. So don't be scared if you got a buyer that doesn't speak English. I mean, I've been there, right? And I've sold a house using their son as the translator. I mean, it's amazing how technology has made it so we can work with these clients. So we've got a team of people to assist us. If you need a translator, just reach out to us. We've got people who we can connect you with. And as we kind of keep going here, prior to going live on the market, we will do a comprehensive market analysis. And if you're bringing this to the appointment, you have your CMA, you have your numbers already in your head or written down or printed. So this is a good opportunity for you to say, okay, now we're going to move into kind of how we're going to price the property. It's comparing sales data and local trends in your neighborhood. We will discuss pricing strategy and what steps we will take in order to work within your timeline. So one of the things that I found most helpful, at least to really get people at this point in time, I would pull up a calendar, and we've got one here that I'll show you that we include in our package just so you can see visually. But I literally sit down with a seller and say, okay, let's get this pen to paper, let's get this on the schedule. When are you going to be out of town? When are you going to be scheduling this? When can we do the open house? When do we need to talk about price reductions? You can have it all sketched out, and there's something about the seller being involved in scheduling it and putting pen to paper that says, okay, I'm ready to go. And sometimes that just having it there, you take a picture of it, you leave them with a hard copy, and you take the rest home, you put it in your personal calendar. It makes it very, very easy to then talk about compensation and pull up the listing agreement and get them to sign. So make it easy on yourself. Come prepared with those market stats. I know that some seller, this one in particular in Federal Way that Rochelle had, where he was up against multiple agents, the fact that she came with that listing box with all of that information for him really swayed him, because he said 2 of them didn't even bring anything. They just showed up. So, I mean, just spend the time. The majority, the greatest success is going to come from you preparing for that appointment. So spend the time and read through some of the materials, go over most recent listings and solds in that area. If you're worried about price points, I know that I had an agent call me recently where she goes, I've never sold a house over 1.5. I've never sold them, and he's worried I don't know what I'm doing. And I said, no, it's okay. You can do it. You've sold many houses. Yeah, it might not have been in that price point. It may have been 1.1, 1.2, but you can do it. And if you really need the stats to back you, you can draw from the firm. And so I said, go back into the history of Best Choice Realty's numbers and see how many we've sold in the last 6 months or 3 months even, and see how many ones over 1.5 that we've sold. And sure enough, you know, we had enough numbers to back her that she's like, oh, this is fantastic. We have 10 listings that we pulled in the last month that sold for more than 1.5. It made the seller feel much more comfortable. I've got a team of people that can assist with me. We can do this together. So don't be afraid of if the data is scaring you, don't worry. We've got resources for you. Please pick up the phone and call us if you've got questions or need some help preparing for your appointment. We're happy to take those calls. We're trying to get as many listings as possible right now. We've got a little competition going on with our congratulations signs that Rochelle mentioned last week. If you haven't already, stop by one of our offices and pick some of those up so you can get entry into that contest. We've got awards awarded weekly. So we've got one going to be announced, I think, this Friday. So go ahead and pick one of those up and get some pictures with some of your buyers and clients. And it just says congratulations. It doesn't matter what stage of the process you're in with that client, obviously it's going to be the most receptive for that social media kind of post if it's at the end of the transaction. But it doesn't matter when, just get a picture of them with that sign and you can be entered into the contest. We're trying to get as many as possible and make a record-breaking February. So if you've got questions with your listings, feel free to give us a call. We're actually going to end here a little early. I know everybody's got some snow out there, and we've got snow predicted, at least down here in Pierce County. So stay safe, and we'll see you guys next Monday. If you guys want to stay on the call, I'm happy to take some questions, whatever they may be.